So the way we're going to kick this off, we're going to start down in sunny Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We are coming off the NFC South reigning champions, the NFC, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers there. So we're going to start kicking it off by, why don't we talk about, let's see, we'll go over to their major losses. So guys that are no longer on the team, we're going to be talking about mostly impact guys, right, guys? Now, on this show, on the GGN Jocks, we are, again, two healthcare professionals who love football, right? We also love making money off football. So we are going to be talking both offensive, defense here. We are not just simply going to be talking about just the little sissy offense, okay? It's not just purely a fantasy thing, because that's not how football works, right? Football is played with 11 on 11. So we are going to cover all aspects. So talking about major losses.
Except for we're not talking about any special teamers, right?
No,
we're not
no
talking
kickers,
about punters, kickers.
That's true. Yes, yeah, absolutely. They don't count. You're right. When that's when you go get some chips or watch it. No, I mean, and this we'll see. Well, speaking of special teams, these new kickoffs, I don't know. We'll see, man. I'm personally not a fan. What do you think about this new kickoff rule where it looks very,
it'll take some time to get used to for sure. But at the same time, like, it couldn't have gotten any worse than the kickoff that we had.
I mean, it was touchbacks, and touchbacks, right? So yeah, for those that aren't tracking, they moved to so the old XFL, or XFL is not really a thing. So the XFL, USFL combined to make the UFL in the spring world. But the NFL decided to take the old XFL's kickoff, where essentially, it's just the kicker back there at the 35 or 30, wherever it is. And then they have the two teams, 10 players line up 10 yards apart. And then you got the returner. Nobody can move until the returner actually catches the ball. So I think there was one touchdown return in the whole XFL season for a touchdown. Everything else, it was a lot of teams starting at the 25, 30 anyway. So at least they'll be returning the ball. So that might be
action.
Yes, right. There will be action, but we'll see how it plays out. I would have loved them to take the UFL approach, where they just actually move the kickoff back 10 yards. And so there is a lot. Special teams is huge in the UFL. So, but anyway, let's get into it. So major losses. So we have linebacker Devin White. He is no longer with the team. Now, also center Ryan Jensen, who's absolute stud, huge part of that 2020 Super Bowl team there with Tampa Brady. He's retired, actually. So why don't we talk about him really quick? Really just a knee injury that, he had an ACL, MCL, PCL tear, unable to fully get back. He had some cartilage issues. He tried, and he wound up, officially announcing his retirement a couple months ago this offseason. Any thoughts on Jensen there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge loss for them for sure. But at the end of the day, they filled that hole pretty quickly with Barton coming in from Duke. So we'll see how he can adjust. But overall, I mean, that's a huge surgery, huge injury to come back from for sure. Especially from an offensive lineman perspective.
Yeah,
that's a lot of weight being put on a knee. So I'm just saying. With cartilage issues, they don't go away. So
definitely.
From that perspective, it makes some sense, to give it a good run to rehab and get going back. But it's somewhat understandable that he wasn't fully successful doing that.
Yeah, I mean, to his credit, he did try, right? It wasn't a lack of effort. He definitely tried. He just couldn't get back. And at that point, it becomes a quality of life thing, right? Like you said, once you start messing with the cartilage, there's not a whole lot you can do to replace that, right? He's probably looking at a knee replacement a couple years down the line, and him kind of hanging it up for good. Maybe I'll let him, not have to do that at such a young age. So, shout out to you, Ryan Jensen, because he had an awesome career. Glad he got a Super Bowl ring there because he did a lot of good things for that organization. A couple more losses. You got Shaq Barrett, the good outside linebacker, edge rusher there, and Carlton Davis, one of their kind of cornerback number one. For them. So talking about the additions, we had, like you just mentioned, in the draft, first round pick, Graham Barton there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then rookie running back Bucky Irving and Sterling Shepard. So not a whole lot, really. I think Barton's probably going to be your biggest impact there. But what are your big takeaways for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into this season?
I mean, honestly, as far as losses go, I think towards the end of the season, Devin White and Barrett, they started kind of splitting snaps to a certain extent anyways. I think KJ Britt had started to take a little bit more of that workload from Devin White to begin with. So I don't know if that's going to be a huge loss there. I mean, Shaq Barrett I mean, that's a big time pass rusher that they'll miss him, but they got a young stud coming in to fill him with Yaya Diaby or however you say his name. So hopefully he can fill in that hole. The biggest loss for me is Carlton Davis. Like you said, he was their number one corner. He ended up in Detroit, I believe, right?
You might be right there. Yeah,
I think he's in Detroit now, which good for the Lions. We'll talk about them in the coming weeks. But I think that's probably the biggest loss. And as far as additions go, they didn't do a whole lot in free agency, but I think they hit a couple good young guys in the draft with Graham Barton and Bucky Irving.
Yeah. No, yeah, I would agree there. And that's just kind of my big takeaway here is that they're basically running it back on offense and defense, right? So, I think that it was a team that, hey, they made it to the playoffs. They beat the Eagles, which was
a playoff game.
Yeah, they won a playoff game. Yeah, I mean, it was at home, but they beat the living piss out of Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia was awful down the stretch, which was just awesome to see. I mean, yeah, if you were as a Giants fan, you'll quickly come to find out I have no love lost for the city of Philadelphia or the Eagles. So fuck Philly. Yeah, I don't really care about that. So that was good to see. But yeah, no, and they were really close to beating Detroit. I remember we gave out Baker Mayfield alternate over on his passing yards. I mean, he really lit them up. It was a close game. They were kind of going, drive for drive. If they could have got one more stop on defense, I think that they have a real shot to make the NFC conference. So that's my biggest takeaway is that they're kind of running it back. You do have some losses. And, as we get into my biggest concern, you kind of mentioned it with the loss of Carlton Davis, that's secondary, right? You got Jamel Dean and Zion McCollum, your two starting cornerbacks. Dean has been okay, but he struggled to stay healthy. You do have Antoine Winfield on the back end, who's a hell of a player. You got Jordan Whitehead as the other side, but I don't know, man.
And especially losing some guys up front with, or at least in Shaq Barrett, like that's going to put even more pressure on that secondary. So, it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, they are kind of running it back, minus those guys that we talked about, but they didn't bring anybody in the secondary. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, that's I think the biggest thing as far as can that secondary actually hold up there. Yep, you were right. Carlton Davis went to the Lions. Devin White is on the Eagles, but like you mentioned, a shell of himself. So good to see there. Shaq Barrett on the Dolphins, and again, Ryan Jensen did retire. Okay.
As far as injuries go, they're basically coming in healthy, though. I mean,
yeah, that's a good point.
Us as the D-Gen docs, as far as injuries go, really the only guy that is semi beat up is Russell Gage.
Yeah, but he's a free agent actually now.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Yeah, so we'll talk some of these. So some of these, as Derek mentioned, some of these free agent guys we're going to talk about just kind of they're not on a team right now, right? He actually was working out for the Saints this week. So we'll see if he gets picked up there and stays in the division. But Russell Gage. So some of the guys we're going to highlight these injuries as we go through is going to be really injuries that are going to impact this season, right? So we're kind of we're recording this, OTAs just ended. We've got until the end of July. So we got about a month to almost 2 months until training camp really starts, and we start getting a lot more updates. So we're going to be focused on a lot of like long-term injuries, like Derek mentioned Russell Gage there, patellar tendon tear. So, that is that ligament in your knee, right underneath the patella, underneath the kneecap that connects to what we call the tibial tuberosity. So when that's torn, requires surgery, typically 8 to 10 months. He's got 12 and a half months because he injured it right before the season started last year. So the only good thing about injuring yourself right before the season starts is you have over a year of recovery timeline. So any big takeaways from Gage there? Not really. I mean, he's not even on a team, so not super big fan of
Right. No,
fantasy
I mean,
impact.
that's a major injury for a wide receiver, but at the end of the day, he's got plenty of time to rehab and get that quad as strong as he can.
Exactly. All right. So, like we talked about, we are not just going to be talking to talk here. We are giving out actionable information, actionable bets or fantasy takes. So, that being said, why don't you start us off, brother? What is the biggest takeaway, biggest actionable ticket item for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yeah. So, the one guy, and kind of like we mentioned earlier, like this division's hard to come up with much actionable because none of the teams are really solid on paper. But at the end of the day, like somebody's got to win some games and somebody's got to perform. So, with that being said, I took an under off of DraftKings earlier today. So I like Chris Godwin's under 4.5 touchdowns for the season. It's only at -110. But he himself had quite a bit of injury issues last year. They brought in one of those Washington wide receivers who's kind of a slot guy.
Jalen
as
McMillan.
well. So, I think Godwin's another year early or another year older. He's had some injury issues. 4.5 isn't a huge number, but I really don't think he'll get there. I mean, especially with the Bucs losing their OC to Carolina, bringing in a new OC, new system. Who knows what an aging Chris Godwin's going to actually end up doing?
I don't hate that at all. Godwin, like you said, he just dealt with a lot of injuries. He just didn't look like himself, whether it was the injuries or whatever.
He had a couple of decent games, but he wasn't on the field, and when he was, he didn't look like himself, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny because you have two like kind of opposites as far as the Buccaneers wide receiver room. They're two alphas, right? Mike Evans just seems to just keep having 1,000-yard seasons and keep putting up numbers despite getting older. And then Chris Godwin, we have seen that decline kind of from him. So pretty interesting. Definitely don't hate that. Like you mentioned, they got the rookie McMillan there, which I thought the trio of Washington wide receivers were all studs. So maybe he steps up and takes his slot. You had Trey Palmer, rookie from last year, from I believe Purdue. He showed some things last year. Famously, whenever he woke up angry, it was a good time to bet his anytime touchdown. We definitely got onto that train, so he made us a little bit of cash there. Okay, that's what you got from the Bucs? You're taking under.
Who do you like?
So, like you said, somebody's got to win some games, and for me, I just think the prices are too nice to not pass up on the Buccaneers, NFC South champions, to run it back at plus 310. I just think I mean, again, they just did it last year. They had all the doubts and naysayers last year, and we saw what they did. We saw how they produced, and they're basically running it back, right? Like we talked about others outside of the potentially the cornerback position. They answered their questions at center with Graham Barton, who I think is going to be a solid player for them. Mike Evans is back. You have Baker Mayfield back, and like you said, Canales did leave. Now he's the head coach of the Panthers. But I think that the guy who's stepping up there at our OC is going to be from a very similar mindset. I think they saw success last year, so why change a lot of things? So give me the Bucs at NFC South champs plus 310. This is partially I'm high on the Bucs. This is also partially I am very low on the rest, as we'll get to find out. I'm not super high on the rest of this division. I think you still have Levante David, Antoine Renfield, Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey. Like you still have some really stud guys on that defense. And the offense, again, Rashad White stepped up. Mike Evans isn't dog. And Baker Mayfield looked comfortable. Cade Otton looked like he could do some things. And this offensive line is kind of one of the better lines. Wirfs, they brought in Bredesen, Barton, Cody Monch. It's a young offensive line, but I think they got a lot of potential.
No, I completely agree with that. But question for you. Is the Bucs, or do they still have the best defense in this division?
That I think it's
mean,
a two horse race. I think it's
yeah,
either going to be definitely either them or New Orleans. Now, New Orleans secondary, in my opinion, is better. I just don't know about their linebacking core, and their D line is getting a little bit old.
right.
So, I think that's a coin flip, but I will say I do believe the Bucs have a much better offense than the sort of Saints do.
Completely agree. Completely agree.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's pretty much it. The only one I was thinking about was to make playoffs at plus 145. But honestly, like we talked about at the top, I like the South to just win the division at plus 310. You're obviously getting a better price, but I do not really see two teams coming from this division. I know they added that extra slot in the 7 slot there for the playoffs, but still, like, man, I don't know if we're gonna get two teams out of the NFC South. So
Right.
give me the
Like you
Bucs.
said, if you're crunching numbers, the likelihood of two teams coming out of this division is just not great. So you might as well take the 310 over the 145.
Yep, gonna go there.